Hey, what's up? I'm Joni, and I'm the CEO at Women in Games International, and I use the pronouns she, her.
Hey, I'm Kendricks, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Wiki, and my pronouns are they, them.
Hey, my name's Amanda Solomon, and I am a board member for Wiggy.
Women in Games International is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are working to normalize women, femme presenting, and non binary professionals in the global gaming industry. And we're doing so by eliminating barriers and increasing access and opportunities for everyone. So we're really trying to learn what those barriers are and then finding ways to help people just crush them.
You know what I like when you say about crush 'em is sometimes with nonprofits you get like one or two or three alleys. It's like choose your adventure, and it's one, two, or three. With Wiki, I think we have something like 25 different programs. So it's not like one, two, or three. It's really truly catered to people of all comfort levels, of all extrovertness or introvertness. Like if you'd rather sit in like a webinar and talk and learn about something in particular, like our stat boost, or if you'd rather go to an actual event, there's a get in the game program. So there's all kinds of different avenues for you to explore your career growth and breaking those barriers with Wiki. Um, Joni, what are some of your favorite programs?
um, oh man, there's so many, and we're developing so many more that every time I find a favorite program and we find a piece of a favorite program, we can make a new program from it. So
Yeah.
it's been a really cool opportunity unfortunately, this past year, because we've been so virtual. Um, it was a really blank slate program where we can just completely, start from the beginning and figure out what it is that we wanted to do and how to drive that impact and how to drive that change. And so there's been a lot of virtual programs that are really cool because it creates this access that we couldn't otherwise create when we were just doing in-person events. Because we actually have people from all over the world joining these conversations on Twitch or in Zoom, and just having these really candid, open conversations about what it is that you specifically need for your career and your growth and your whatever issues that you are facing.
Yeah. I love that. I like that you talked about how it went from like virtual to or to like physical to digital, and now we're kind of doing like a hybrid year where there's a lot of programs that are still digital and there's a lot of programs that are still virtual. That was the same thing. I meant to say physical and digital. My apologies. I've not had enough coffee. But it also means that if you are in Europe, you're not excluded from conversations, or you're not like suddenly because you're in Europe you can't get to or go to or attend a virtual conference, which I think is really exciting. A lot of nonprofits tend to be very geographically like they say nothing outside the United States or nothing outside of Canada or nothing outside of North America, and then that leaves everybody else who's around the world, hence the international in our name, at a disadvantage. What is one program that is new that you are really looking forward to see this year?
Definitely the Get in the Game. That's my favorite. It's been amazing. It's been so exciting, and it was a barrier that I identified, just growing up, how without a lot of money and a lot of resources available, and it's really a program that was crafted from that love and wanting to eliminate that barrier for somebody else, and the idea of, Wiki's kind of been formed as we've been building out this program's portfolio on, I wish I had known X when I was at X stage of my career, and so finding those barriers and finding ways to then kind of hand it off to empower somebody to empower themselves, to open the door for yourself is so important. Self-advocacy is such a huge piece of anybody's career when, in whichever stage of your career you're in. So I think my favorite part of our program's portfolio is there are so many different tracks, whether you're trying to get into the industry or you're trying to go from entry level to mid-manager or mid-manager to C-suite. There are so many different tracks and so many different opportunities for learning, in so many different ways. Everybody's got a different career trajectory. We want to see women in the C-suite. We want to see people of diversity at every single levels, CEO, CMO, CFO, really running studios and, everything from marketing to finance to game dev. Um, and just, I think we're really building out this really cool trajectory to make that happen.
One of the most impactful conversations that I remember having at the Get in the Game London one, which was back in October, was I wish I had known when I was younger that appearances don't matter as much as we put effort into them, right? Like, I think that was one of the biggest takeaways. And we have a couple programs, and we have a sponsor who also talks about dress for success, like looking presentable and all the stuff. But looking presentable doesn't mean the same thing. It doesn't mean I don't have to look like you and you don't have to look like me. And then recognizing that in with whatever your job is, you also have leeway, right? Like for me, I do marketing. That's all I do. And if I show up in a room with flamboyantly pink hair and like fun makeup and outfits that are kind of like a little bit maybe not business professional, it's more widely accepted because I'm coming as myself as a creative individual rather than if I came dressed as not myself because I think I have to look a certain way. And that was really communicated so brilliantly in the Get in the Game program with our mentees who struggled to understand what it meant to show up to a conference or show up to a networking event, and especially in gaming when half the time people are wearing jeans and their favorite gaming t-shirt and that's it. They're like, YOLO, this is me. And that's fabulous, but nowhere is there like a handbook to say what I have to wear or what I should be wearing or how do I present myself. We all see the memes online. It's like if you go to a conference, make sure you shower, wear deodorant. But like beyond that, how do we as femme presenting individuals, how do we put ourselves together to be approachable and to be seen as professionals? Because that's often a barrier that we face. So I'm really glad that you kind of touched on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was, for me growing up, I didn't have a ton of professional females in my life or professional women in my life. I didn't have a ton of professional people who weren't men in my life. And so it was hard to identify that for myself as well. And my husband, I got married very young, and my husband would tease me because at 20 years old, I was wearing slacks with an elastic waistband and sensible shoes made for orthopedic support, and he was just like, "What are you doing?" This isn't you. Why are
Yeah.
you going to a job interview looking like this when this isn't you? And I think that was a huge learning for me is, specifically when people say like, what are your top three weaknesses and your top three strengths? And you try to like really craft it to say, oh, my one of my biggest weaknesses is I can't put a project down. Oh, because I'm so motivated. And it's like, no, you got to have those answers that are really you, and you got to have that presentation that is who you are
Yeah.
as a person. If you trick somebody to giving you a job because you conform to what you think they want, it's really on you, and you're not happy in that job because you presented that's who you pretended to be, and that's who they thought they were hiring. So you got to present yourself 100% of the time, make sure that you are exactly who you really are as you're trying to get these different roles and make these connections within the industry.
Yeah, I love that. What is one program that is new that you are really looking forward to see this year?
Definitely the Get in the Game. That's my favorite. It's been amazing. It's been so exciting, and it was a barrier that I identified, just growing up, how without a lot of money and a lot of resources available, and it's really a program that was crafted from that love and wanting to eliminate that barrier for somebody else, and the idea of Wiki's kind of been formed as we've been building out this program's portfolio on I wish I had known X when I was at X stage of my career, and so finding those barriers and finding the ways to then kind of hand it off to empower somebody to empower themselves, to open the door for yourself is so important. Self-advocacy is such a huge piece of anybody's career when, in whichever stage of your career. And so I think my favorite part of our program's portfolio is there are so many different tracks, whether you're trying to get into the industry or you're trying to go from entry level to mid-manager or mid-manager to C-suite. There are so many different tracks and so many different opportunities for learning in so many different ways. Everybody's got a different career trajectory. We want to see women in the C-suite. We want to see people of diversity at every single levels, CEO, CMO, CFO, really running studios and, everything from marketing to finance to game dev. And just, I think we're really building out this really cool trajectory to make that happen.
One of the most impactful conversations that I remember having at the Get in the Game London one, which was back in October, was I wish I had known when I was younger that appearances don't matter as much as we put effort into them, right? Like I think that was one of the biggest takeaways. And we have a couple programs, and we have a sponsor who also talks about dress for success, like looking presentable and all the stuff. But looking presentable doesn't mean the same thing. It doesn't mean I don't have to look like you and you don't have to look like me. And then recognizing that in with whatever your job is, you also have leeway, right? Like for me, I do marketing. That's all I do. And if I show up in a room with flamboyantly pink hair and like fun makeup and outfits that are kind of like a little bit maybe not business professional, it's more widely accepted because I'm coming as myself as a creative individual rather than if I came dressed as not myself because I think I have to look a certain way. And that was really communicated so brilliantly in the Get in the Game program with our mentees who struggled to understand what it meant to show up to a conference or show up to a networking event. And especially in gaming, when half the time people are wearing jeans and their favorite gaming t shirt, and that's it. They're like, YOLO, this is me. And that's fabulous. But nowhere is there like a handbook to say what I have to wear or what I should be wearing or how do I present myself. We all see the memes online. It's like if you go to a conference, make sure you shower, wear deodorant. But like beyond that, how do we as femme presenting individuals, how do we put ourselves together to be approachable and to be seen as professionals? Because that's often a barrier that we face. So I'm really glad that you kind of touched on that. So let's just jump into Get in the Game program. So
Okay.
as Joni and I both talked about in the programs that we are doing in 2022, many of us here identify with the Get in the Game program. Joni, would you like to explain why it's one of your favorite programs?
I would love to. Thank you. Get in the Game was a program I created from the idea of enabling people who otherwise couldn't afford it to get access to a games industry conference. And a lot of times we're finding that it's not always what you know, but who you know, who can at least open that door and get that conversation started and getting those jobs in the games industry. And so this program is very focused on covering the cost of food, of travel to and from the airport, of a flight, of a hotel. We are also working with Dress for Success to do online consultations as well as donated clothing on an as-needed basis. And we're really trying to get people who otherwise couldn't afford it, get those underrepresented communities into these games industry conferences and empower them and enable them to have these conversations and be very comfortable in doing so. We also do coaching. We do one-on-one sessions. We do mentorship coaching as well as how to, update your social media to let people know that you're at the conference. And then to continue to have those conversations. So it's not just introducing yourself and finding that spark, finding that connection, but also how do you follow up and how do you follow up in a professional manner? And then how do you use that connection to really build your network and build that capacity for your career? So it's one of the programs that is very exciting that we are doing. We also we have a 50% rate of our last program that we ran. 50% of the participants received a full-time offer for a job in the games industry within 2 weeks of the program close. We just found out that 2 more people also received full-time positions within the industry. So we are at 5 out of 6 people got jobs from that program, and they are very much crediting Wiggy for those connections and that skill building that we worked with them on. And Amanda and Kendricks, you guys were my other mentors on that program.
That was so fun. I mean, I think it was really cool to see that we didn't have just one type of mentee in one discipline, but we had everyone from like content creators to partnerships people that I obviously, relate very closely to like 3D artists, 2D artists. Like I thought that was amazing that these people got jobs in different disciplines at different companies. And when I also talk to people about, the ROI on these types of programs, I'm also telling them that, hey, the mentors didn't hire any of these people. So there wasn't any sort of bias. I wish I could, honestly. But, these individuals went out on their own, really, and were able to find these jobs and secure them really without, us having too much of a skin in it.
Yeah, I also really like that not only were the mentees pretty diverse in the backgrounds that they came from, but like what they were looking for from each one of the mentors who were on the trip. So the 3 of us was also really interesting. Like I don't do partnership work, but I was able to help with like marketing yourself and talking about yourself and being more confident and like talking to individuals when you're at a conference. Or like, for example, those who are designers, I was better able to relate to, but there was still an impact made by each of the mentors. It wasn't just your field of study or your field of work, and then that was the only person you connected with. So I also really liked that everyone got a little bit of everything and was able to be pretty well rounded by the end of the trip. Plus they were all just amazing blueberries, so
They were. There was also a lot of learning that was very cross department too, like just how to present yourself or how to be confident when you're starting these conversations. It didn't matter what your end goal was with regard to your position or your profession, but really having those conversations and making those meaningful networking connections, as well as in an interview, how to take that same confidence and skill into the next step of that conversation, and really being able to speak to how to make those connections work for you in your career and help you propel.
So one of the things that I am really passionate about, and I know everyone well, is ensuring that like our language and the individuals who are coming on the trips and going to these events are not just women, because we often get categorized as being like a women in games international, meaning if only you're a woman. But one of our initiatives is to make sure that women, non-binary and femme presenting individuals feel included and feel like they can apply and feel like they are just as welcome in our programs. Can you guys speak to like how individually that's impacted you and how you're trying to make that change at Wiggy?
Huge. It's totally huge. So I thought by not saying it, it was implied. So not calling out, non-binary or specific categories of people. It was Women in Games International, everyone is included, and saying women and allies was really kind of the what we were doing in kind of our strategy at the time when I first started here. Is women and allies are all completely welcome to join us. Well, sometimes you aren't a woman and you aren't necessarily an ally. You're somebody who's still benefiting from the services that we're offering and benefiting from that empowerment, and you want to be identified by what you most identify as. You don't want to be considered a woman, or I mean, obviously you're an ally and that you believe in the mission as well. But so it was really interesting, especially meeting you at PAX and talking to you specifically, Kendricks, and having you say, I'm like, I just heard that somebody said we weren't inclusive. And you're like, well, yeah, because some of the wording you're using, and yeah, let's talk about it. Um, it was so eye-opening, and it was so amazing and impactful, and that was when I was just like, "Can you, can you come on over here and help me a little bit more?" So, it's so important to me, and I guess in my mind, I was kind of like, "I super don't care how you identify, and that's how I'm supporting you is by not asking you to identify in a specific way," and you were like, "No, it's not helping. That's not supporting. That's you need to call out that you are supporting this and you are identifying it, and really, really very verbally and very in your face say that you are welcome here, and this is something that is very important to me." So it's definitely impacted the way I use language when I'm doing interviews, when I'm, trying to write copy for whatever it is that we're working on, or a program, or as I'm talking to a partner and really pitching what it is that we're doing, making sure that I really specify it's not just women, and stop using the word female because that's very, very specific and I had no idea. So it's been a huge learning phase for me, and it's something that I love learning about, and I love finding new ways to support people. Got moved. I don't line up,
Okay.
you guys.
It's all good. It's all good.
What else?
Um, Amanda, would you like to go?
I mean, that basically covers like all of the things. I mean, I'm very purposeful when I talk about partnerships and I talk about fundraising and I talk about all of the programs that we do. I make it a point to, call out women, non-binary individuals, and those who identify as women, because kind of like what Joni said, like, it almost like sounds implied, like, oh, women in gaming, like, of course you're under this umbrella. But I think without calling it out and making it like a conscious effort to do so, you're almost in a way like excluding them, because we're not saying non-binary, we're not saying those who identify as women. So it's something that I always make it a point to say, to not only make sure that it's solidified in my own head, but kind of help train other people that to be inclusive you have to say all of these. And when you just say women, or you just pick what certain parts, say that you're not including everyone.
Yeah. I think you both have been trailblazers when it comes to like using correct pronouns and being inclusive as a whole. Like I don't want this conversation to feel like everyone's been making mistakes, but it's just we've all had these eye-opening opportunities in the past little while. We want to make sure that everyone at Wiki feels included. So I appreciate both your answers. And you see that a lot with like internships in esports and gaming. A lot of people who can do an internship at like 100 Thieves or Face Clan or Evil Geniuses, they are probably white middle class men who don't have to rely on an income and can intern for free and get the experience that sets them up for the job versus other people who don't have the ability to take all of those they don't have all those qualifiers, nor do they have the ability to not work, and that's what disqualifies them from internships. And unfortunately in our industry we very heavily, I don't know why, value internships over almost anything else. Like you could have 8 years experience working in a different industry doing the exact same job, but if you have an internship at like Evil Geniuses or Face Clan or one of the big companies, you're like automatically in the door. And I think that that's part of the inequality that happens. Something good in the industry.
I want to tie it something with allies because we do want to promote our allies. Like it's so important.
Yeah. I have
Um,
ally stories, but like something good. I think what's starting to shift and happen in the industry is instead of individuals being the lone allies in our groups of collectively like us, is we're starting to see more and more men and mask presenting individuals step up to the plate and take on inequality and take on those conversations that we've been having for so long. When I first started in the industry, I had very few allies or people in my corner, which was really challenging because it meant that every conversation that was about inequality or about how unfair it was or about the challenges that I faced was met with 9 people who are like, you're over exaggerating. And that one person who'd be like, I've got your back. I'll have that conversation, like, no stress. And now I'm seeing that like it's closer to like 50% of the conversations I have is I have an ally or I have someone who's like, I hear what you're saying, like what can I do to help support you or other people in my circles to like help fight this inequality, to help fight this oppression or the barriers that exist. I have lots of people now that I could shout out, but I think that's putting them on the spot because they're my allies, not yours. But I think truly over as a whole, we've started to see that shift where more and more people feel comfortable being an ally. And that's truthfully thanks to all the hard work of a lot of the industry leaders who've been breaking down those barriers for a long time. One question that I want to pose to the rest of the group is what was like your inspiration or your pivot point that like kept you in the industry, or that was that like inspiration that gave you hope that things could get better or like you could make that change. When I first started the industry, I had a lot of turmoil because I was fought with a lot of sexism very early on because I started as a journalist. And I did this really big documentary and it went really well, but when it aired, I had all of these really sexist comments about me. And I remember sitting down and feeling really defeated. And I'm not going to say I was my inspiration, but I remember thinking that like if I don't continue doing what I'm doing, I'll never get to a point where I can make real serious change to make it easier for every woman, non-binary, trans man or woman to get into the space. And so for me it was like not that I was the inspiration, but it was like, if I don't do it, how do I know it's going to change? And so I need to be strong enough to weather it until I get to the point where I can make the change, which is why I'm here with these lovely people. Does anyone else have a inspiration or pivotal moment in their career?
No, I think that's huge. I think for me, it was a lot of kind of trying to stay behind the scenes because when I was more forward facing, it became, like you said, there were, comments or just facing a lot of sexism within my job, and pay rates and job descriptions. And, I have an accounting degree and I have so many years of experience, but for some reason I'm now ordering the office supplies and I'm also answering the door for the FedEx people. And like, why is that on me personally? Like, why would that become my job description? And so I feel like when I joined Wiggy, it was a bunch of people kind of sitting around going, yeah, me too. Yeah, I see that because I had a similar experience, and really sharing those similar experiences it created a really cool opportunity for us to just really redefine the program's portfolio. And we've become this sort of, I wish I had known this when, I wish I had known how to advocate for myself better when I was facing the situation. I wish I had known how to negotiate my salary and really ask for what I was worth and for that position. I wish I had known how to do the research to make sure that I was coming in with the correct pitch. I wish I had known how to stand up for myself or how to stand up for someone else. I saw this thing happening. I knew it was wrong. I didn't know what to say or what to do. And really creating those self-advocacy and actionable allyship and all of these different opportunities for people to learn and to grow and to make the industry a better place and to really normalize what behavior we want to see across the board in every genre and every category of the games industry. So everything from tabletop to esports to video game development and again, and trying to get more people, just diverse candidates all the way C-suite, CEOs running a studio, marketing, accounting, and we want that diversity across the board. And we're finding that a lot more markets can be entered when those people are in those positions because they understand the market. They understand a lot more nuances than somebody who's just trying to create something appealing to a different group. If you're part of that group, it's a lot easier to enter into that space. So I guess coming from a different space was really a huge piece for me, but then also just finding like-minded individuals who wanted to see everyone succeed was so empowering that I wanted to continue to grow that and really promote that out to the rest of the industry. We talked a lot about very serious stuff, but I think it's very important to also talk about our gamer tags. Kendrick, do you want to talk about your gamer tag and where that came from?
Yes, I do. I know we're trying to move away from like like very like hard conversations, but truthfully, my gamer tag actually comes from a hard story. So my gamer tag is Kendrick's. And when I was about 15, I had this high school bully. Her name was Kendra, and she was awful, awful human being. Hopefully she's not watching right now. And things were really bad. And I remember thinking, like, how do I like change this power dynamic? Like, how do I take back the power that she has over me, and how do I reclaim that for myself? And so I, as any gamer would do, is I was like, I'm gonna make a gamer tag. I'm gonna make my new gamer tag. And so I took the first part of her name, which was Kendra, and I dropped the A. And then I took my favorite Greek goddess, which is Nyx, and I took away the N, and then I went Kendra. And so I smushed them together, and I've been using that ever since. And for me, it was like a move to feel empowered, to feel more like myself, to take away the feeling that ownership of someone had over me. And it just reminded me every day when I would play video games that like I'm my own person. I'm not held to anyone else's standards. I can be whoever I want to be. And like truthfully, it's also now, fun fact, my actual name. So I'm legally changing my name to Kendricks in a move because I more identify with that name than I do my dead name, which is Jillian. And so not only was it like my gamer tag, it's now actually my real name as well. So that's the story of my gamer tag.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I'm all
My
blushy now.
Aw. Mine
Tell
is
me
much
about
less
yours.
cool. Yeah, mine's much not. It's
Tell
super.
me.
I was also being teased. How's that? No, it
Good.
wasn't. It was fine.
I like it.
So we used to play. It was called Ghost in the Graveyard. I don't know if you've ever played Ghost in the Graveyard, but when I was little, we would go to my aunt's house, and she had this huge backyard, and we would sit on the porch, and it was 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock a rock until you got to midnight, and then you had to go find the ghost. And there was one person. It was basically like tag, so you had to hide, and everybody had to come off the porch, and they had to try and find the ghost. And if the ghost tagged you, you became the ghost. And so then that person had to go and hide, and everybody else got back on the porch. If you saw the ghost, you could run back to the porch, and then you couldn't get tagged, and the game was over, and then you had to start over again and recount, right? Uh, because I was and still am, so incredibly pale, I was awful at being the ghost because everyone could see me even in the dark. I was like a human glow stick, and that kind of became my gamer tag. So my gamer tag is glow stick. And it came from that trying to play that game and losing time and time and time again because everyone could see me because I glowed in the dark or glowed in the dark. So yeah, so that's why I am glow stick because I'm super monster extra pale.
That's amazing. I haven't played that game since I was literally a kid, and as soon as you started saying it, I was like, "Oh my god, I know this game." Oh my god. So thank you for that flashback because that was amazing. Also, your gamer tag is amazing.
I wish I knew an origin for it, and it feels very
Make one up
lackluster after these
right
two
now.
wonderful stories to just be like, I just picked it. You know, it could have just been like a random, like in World of Warcraft, they do like the name generators. It could have just been that, like, I don't actually remember. I was so young. I was like 13 or something, and
But
I just
now,
picked it.
but we could make an origin story. It's like one dark night while you were playing World of Warcraft. You queued
you
in, crying after an awful day at school, being like, I need to escape. Press enter on the randomizer, and this name appears, and you entered the world. Come on.
And this is why you play D&D and I don't, because that was amazing.
This is why Kendrick's head's marketing.
So I'm like, let me make
Because I'm
all the
sold.
stories. Joni's like, I'll buy 3 of those. Thank you.
Just take my money. Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna forever remember your name is now. Like, I swear I'm gonna like see your name pop up on Discord. I'm like, oh yeah, that one dark and stormy night when you queued into World of Warcraft.
Please and thank you.
Amazing. So Amanda, on that dark and stormy. No, I'm joking. But really, I have a question. It's very imperative that everyone here knows. What was the first video game you ever played?
Obviously, World of Warcraft. Unless we're counting board games like Monopoly, then
No.
Monopoly.
No. Tony, what was your favorite or first video game?
And I'm trying to go back. I think the first one I really remember playing was there was an old arcade. I want to say it was a Mrs. Pac-Man at the roller skating rink, and we used to go there for like family nights. There was a roller skating rink in town, and I remember they had to bring over a little stool so I could step up on it so I could play. And I couldn't even tell you what the game was, honestly. I just remember the button and trying to. I don't know, everybody would just cheer and get excited, and then okay, it's your turn's done. So it was really exciting to be like part of that. It was all about that community and that I'm the youngest of 4, and so just wanting to play with my big brother when he was playing, and my sisters and everything. But I know my mom used to play Tetris, and it got to the point that I couldn't fall asleep unless she got to a certain level and I heard that song, and then I could fall. It was like my lullaby, and so she would tease me about that. But
I don't want to copy you, but I also fell asleep to my dad playing like Rome Total War like every night as a kid. Like hearing the Gregorian chants was like instant sleep time for me, like instant. So I'm glad you shared that. That's really nice for us. I like that. Mine's really lame, and no one here is allowed to make fun of me. That's like the promise we're making as a friend group right now is no making fun of me.
It's a safe space. You can say anything.
It's not. You're gonna laugh. So my first video game that I ever played was Mavis Beacon and Learns to Type. It was this typing game that my dad got me.
Are
when
we
I was
really
like,
going to consider that a video game?
It was a
my
game.
academic
career.
I didn't understand the rules.
There was levels, there was accomplishments, there was achievements to unlock. Besides that, I will let that one pass. The first video game I ever played was this scuba diver who would go under the sea, and she would find these starfish, and you had to like spell things, or you had to do problems, and you had to like get air bubbles, and there was these monster fish that would come get you. It was utterly terrifying. I was like 6 years old. I don't know why. Back in the 90s, video games were not made for children at all.
Oregon Trail. That's what I was totally thinking. That was not made for kids. Totally made for kids.
No, they were not. 90s was not friendly to kids. It was like, do you want to die of dysentery? Yes, as a 6-year-old, most definitely. Have fun. Yeah, no. Yeah, I have a lame origin story. But The Sims, once I found that game in like 1998, I killed all of my Sims forever and ever. Thank you, always. I still do. We don't talk about that though.
That's amazing. When I was in 3rd grade, we had a math game, and if you could answer them quickly, there was a race car at the end. So there were 10 questions. You answered them as quick as you could based on how quickly you answered them. And if you answered them correctly, the car would go faster. And so we would have like a bunch of, it's like a crazy, stupid LAN party of 3rd graders, right? And we would have all of our computers connected, and we would compete against each other, and our race cars would go. And so you could have 3 people at a time. And I was like, so I guess my very first gamer tag was
This is your origin story of finance as well. Like, that's like, when did you decide to be an accountant? That time
They're
when I
great
played
'cause
the
I
race car
won.
video game because you won.
So
That's so
competitive.
funny.
Yeah. And they were like, "You're like a human calculator." And so they started calling me Calc in 3rd grade. Yeah, because
Oh
I
my
could go
gosh,
super
I love
fast.
that. We played Sonic the Hedgehog so when
Mhm.
I was in grade 4, I got really sick with mono. I know anyway, was sick with mono and I came into the school like 2.5 months. It was like November by the time I actually got to go to school. And so everyone had their like girls club and then the boys club. And I distinctly remember coming into school and being like, well, all my friends are guys, but if I go play video games, the girls are going to make fun of me. And I remember like staring there at like recess, being like, do I play Sonic the Hedgehog or do I go dance to S Club 7? So I made the choice of playing Sonic the Hedgehog, which honestly was the best decision I've ever made. But now, whenever I hear the collecting of rings, like bling, 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 I hear, there ain't no power like an S Club every time, forever and always. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Amanda, did you ever play, when you play World of Warcraft, do you ever like listen to music and have things like intrinsically tied? No?
Nope. I gotta be in it, in the zone, no outside sounds.
I was gonna say
I gotta
Warcraft
hear
has such good
everything.
music. Yeah.
Does it
Yeah,
If I go
the
actually?
to
the in-game music is
yeah,
amazing. It's so beautiful.
chef's kiss. Yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't know
Except for
that.
scary things, I have to turn down the sound.
Define scary things, please.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's scary things.
That's so funny that you would play Sonic because I would actually hide my Sega under my pillow, and then my mom, if she came to check on me when I was sleeping, I would hide it under my pillow, and I'd pull it out when we play it. And so like we had like 2 of them that we would between my sisters and I, we would share them. So, I think for me though, my character that I most identified with was Laura Croft Tomb Raider, and it was just the first badass female character that I saw. You know, we played a lot of Mario growing up, and it was like the princess was always getting stolen and whatever. And I loved that this woman came in and she's like, I want the thing, I'm gonna do the thing, and it's gonna be hard, and I'm gonna do it anyway. And if if you die, you start over and you just keep trying to do the thing. And it was so amazing and so exciting and so powerful. I think that's one of my favorite characters even still just to today. Do you have a favorite character that you most identify with?
I have one that I love. I don't know. I mean, I've never like identified with characters because I generally didn't play like story-based games when I was growing up, nor do I play it as an adult. Like I feel like World of Warcraft or like Tomb Raider or even like what's it called? Far Cry, like all those games are like more story-based, and I was always more into like build your own world or like MOBAs, for example. Death Prophet though. Death Prophet's my jam. She's on my arm. She's in my heart. She's the spookiest lady who will ever be. And if I could be anyone in this world, it would be her. For no other reason than she's the badass witch that loves, I just love her. She hates everyone, but I love her. She loves me. So, yeah. Yeah. Amanda.
I don't think I have one. Yeah, no, I don't. What about who? She's cool. I'm not much of like a lore person, so I don't really follow stuff like that. She's just badass and everyone seems to hate her.
She's a total
Inspirational.
She
She is.
Yeah,
You
she seems
should
pretty
read her
cool.
lore.
I
Dude,
will
I
never.
have all the books. I like bought all the books and I have everything. I just like I can't I will read when I'm dead. I don't know. Like there's like no time in the world to like do any of that. And I'm not like an audiobook person. I like trail off into oblivion with my mind.
I will never say this publicly ever again, so you're welcome, chat. But I might watch all of the trailers for World of Warcraft, even though I don't play, and I might read the lore. Neither can confirm nor deny, but I might, and I think that she's badass, so I think that's a good choice.
Yeah, dude, the cinematics for World of Warcraft's just like out of this world. Like going to BlizzCon to see it is like I whole body experience. It's nuts.
Oh, speaking of BlizzCon, is that your favorite gaming convention, or is that like which one?
Obviously,
Yeah.
everything else is work. That's the only convention I go to like for fun. Everything else is like a work component.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Joni, favorite gaming convention you ever been to?
I haven't been to BlizzCon yet, so
So that's clearly your favorite one then.
gotta go. Yeah,
Magical.
gotta go. I think, GDC is the one that I seem to always end up at, especially with um, being closer to San Francisco and everything too. So it's a really cool opportunity to meet so many different people, and so many people like internationally come in. So there's a lot more people there, and it's a really cool opportunity to meet with like a lot of just really people with all these different backgrounds and everything. So I think that's one of my favorite ones. What about you?
I love PAX East. There's just something about PAX East that, like, even though I work every single time I go, every single time, I just find that, like, there's so much cosplay and there's so many games. It's like the energy is just like something like really different from all the other conventions I've been to. Um, yeah, I assume that the day I go to the international, which please don't at me, I know I haven't gone to the international. It's like the Dota 2 mecca of the world. I know. I haven't been yet. I feel like when I go to that, it will be like I'll be home. It'll be like Amanda's BlizzCon. Like I'll finally be home. I'll finally be amongst my people. It'll be fantastic, and I'll just get to watch Dota wherever in the world it is. So I'm excited for that. So I know we all have our real life companions, but I think one thing that's missing in gaming is talking about our fur babies or our fur companions. Um, I love my Apollo. He is my boxer. Do you guys have any pets that you'd like to shout out before we close out the show?
Sure. So, I have that was funny. Sorry.
I was like, how do I whisper, Jody? You go first.
So I have 3 human babies, which sometimes act like fur babies. But I also have a German Shepherd, Xena, and she's 90 pounds. She thinks she's a lap dog, and she will sit on you and crush you and doesn't care, just wants scratchies on her belly.
Oh,
I have a huge German Shepherd Great Dane mix and a tiny little Chihuahua, and they're the best of friends. And the Chihuahua runs the house, runs me, runs our lives. It's pretty great.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so proud to be part of the Thanksgaming tradition, and we hope to see you soon. Check us out at getwiggy.com, sign up for our newsletter, and we are at GetWiggy on all socials.